Bhagavatam, this nectar which can help us to distinguish reality from illusion and take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we finished the 29th chapter yesterday, and today we will resume from chapter 30. Kapila's description of the painful consequences of material life. Tighten your seat belts and let's go into the journey of this chapter. Kapila describes how, controlled by time, the conditioned soul falls into illusion and degrades himself to hell. Any of you likes to start reading? Please take over.
As promised, Kapila returned to the mansion shortly after sunrise. Respectfully touching Devhuti's feet, he took his seat on the veranda. What do you wish to discuss today, mother? My dear son, you spoke about time. Last night. Please explain more about this and how, under its influence, the living beings suffer continuous miseries. Kapila drew his mother's attention to the puffy clouds scudding across the morning sky like so many giant pieces of cotton wool. As these clouds have no idea how the wind carries them through the heavens, materialistic person cannot perceive time's influence. Whatever they painstakingly creates for their happiness is destroyed in due course by Krishna in his form as time. When their material plans are thus frustrated, they simply lament. The misguided materialistic forgets that powerful time will annihilate even his body as well as everything connected to his bodily pleasure, such as his house, land, wealth. In ignorance, he thinks all these worldly assets are permanent. In whatever species of life he takes birth, the deluded living entities become attached and think he is happy. Even in most degraded situation, he does not want to die, thinking delight in his hellish enjoyment. Devhuti looked incredulously. Surely those in hellish conditions of...
Okay, let's pause there. This statement, even in the most degraded situation, he does not want to die taking delight in his hellish enjoyment. I'm just trying to digest that. But the truth is, I have noticed some people in that situations where it's really not a healthy, happy life, but their life is so dear to him. And I don't know if they really take delight in their hellish enjoyment, because I don't know if it is delight. I don't know. Probably it is for them. They just get degraded and degraded and degraded. once we take to the path, like going downstairs is easier than climbing upstairs. So once we take on to some habits which are unhealthy, detrimental, we become addicted to it. That's why this is called addictions, right? People who get addicted to drugs, people who get addicted to different kinds of things, it keeps going down and down and down. It doesn't stop at the will. It is like a habit. It's like something that drags us down. Yeah. I am thinking of different examples of people that I've known from childhood, drunkards and different people that used to abuse their family, and the wife would cry. And I mean, I know even in Mayapur, some Prabhus beating their wives. And, there is a sense of, it's a hellish thing, to feel, oh, I'm superior to this woman because I'm beating her. But there is some sort of hellish, quote unquote, enjoyment in it, I suppose. And hellish, it's hellish because it's not going to lead them to any good. But still, they're attached to it. And they think they're happy. See, it says here, they become attached and thinks he's happy. It's not that they are happy. And it's like that, they say in Smashana Vairagya, like when we see somebody die and we go to their funeral, then we become very detached. Oh, every day, one day we have to die. Even I have to die. There's a little bit of detachment, right? But then we come home and then everything is back to, hey, this is mine and this is my permanent thing, and fighting for the land, fighting for this, fighting for the money, and everything, fighting for ego. That's like the biggest thing. So we see that on a daily basis, that people get really attached and they assume that wealth and property and everything. Yesterday, I was in some land office. I was selling some piece of land, and these people, all these agents and people were fighting like anything. And they were trying to lie to me about something, and I did not want to sign. And I saw their desperate measures to lie and somehow or another manipulate and get the signature. And I had to stay firm. But I was just thinking, even to remain sober in this world, you really need Bhagavatam, because it helps us distinguish reality from illusion. At one point, I was just feeling so scared, or like, what am I going to do? All these, I don't know, about 15 to 16 men in that room, and everybody was like harassing, sign. And I was just thinking, but where is my strength? All these people, supposed to be, some of them even devotees, right? Many of them. And then I saw this picture of Radha Madhava on the table. And I just grabbed that picture. I just held it to myself. And then I just prayed and I said, Krishna, you're the only one who's a real well-wisher. Everybody else is lost in their own hellish attachments, and everybody is lost in their own greediness. So please, help me like that. So, by looking at people who are attached to worldly assets and thinking that they'll become happy with this little few lakhs that they're going to make by some trickery, it's sad, right? We're supposed to have compassion, but before having compassion, we also need some strength to keep ourselves afloat. Yeah. Oof. If you like to continue reading, unless somebody has some comment. Hi, Krishna Lakshmita, welcome.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Lakshmita, would you like to continue reading a little bit?
Yeah, sure, Mataji. From where should I start?
So we subbed with this. Devahuti looked incredulous. Surely,
Yeah, okay.
those hellish conditions of life. Now you can continue.
Life would welcome death. Then she recalled the story Kardama had told her. Once Indra was cursed to become a hog. After living in that body for some time, Brahma approached him and asked him to return to the heavens in his celestial form. Indra was reluctant, saying that he was happy where he was with his hog wife and children. Devahuti shook her head. How could living entities be so foolish? Kapila said, conditioned souls are satisfied with their material situation because of their deep rooted attachment to body, wife, children, home, wealth, and friends. Thinking these to be the source of their happiness, they believe they are successful. Even though they always burn with anxiety due to constant tribulation, the deluded souls continue to hope against hope that their family, society, and possessions will make them happy. They are ready to they're ready to commit all kinds of sin in order to maintain them. Seduced by the spell of opposite sex, the bewildered living beings enjoy intimate talks and embraces in solitary places. He's further captivated by the enchanting speech of small children. He thus continues in family life, which is filled with deceit and politics. He gives pain to others to secure his own sense gratification. Continuously suffering the reaction to his sins, he considers himself happy if he can simply mitigate his misery. He procures wealth by nefarious means, giving most of it to his family members and consuming only a small portion himself, eventually going to hell for his sinful acts. When he loses his means of income, he tries repeatedly to find another way to earn money. After all his attempts are baffled, powerless to control his greed, he resorts to begging and borrowing from others. Unable to support his family, the wretched fellow thinks always of his failure and deeply grieves. When he is bereft of wealth, his wife and relatives disrespect and neglect him the same way that miserly farmers disregard their old and worn out oxen. Although he is maintained by those who once depended upon him, he still doesn't become disgusted with his family life. Deformed by old age, he waits for death. He lives at home like a pet dog, eating whatever is negligently given to him. Afflicted with indigestion and other illnesses, he becomes an invalid, incapable of work. Towards the end of his life, his eyes bulge and he is congested with mucus. He struggles to breathe, producing a rasping sound. Lying down to die, he is surrounded by
Wow, gruesome, huh? What a description. It
yes.
seems like, oh my God. But you know what? We see that happening all the time.
Hmm.
It seems like, oh my God, it's so gruesome, like too descriptive. But actually, it's happening around us in many people's lives. Oh God. Yeah. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Mataji, though we know this, like, why are we not reminding ourselves for this? Or, like,
I want to.
why are we not? Hello, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, I said because we don't want to. We want to be in denial. I think facing reality is much harder.
Yeah.
Facing reality is not easy, So many areas of our life, in fact, it's not just about death and disease. We can actually see that in many areas of our life, whether it is relationship, like it's said here, right? The transition, like here in this previous page. First of all, you see, in the mode of passion, everything starts off as like nice, right? The person is seduced by the opposite sex, and then they're bewildered, and then he's further captivated by the enchanting speech of the children, and then the family life is with deceit and politics, right? It's like we see that in order to make it. Even yesterday, my driver was saying all these agents, the dalal, the people who are in between, the guys who take commission for land, they're all liars. They are all, living such a life of deceit, life of politics, life. And I was thinking, it's not just them. In many areas of life, it's like that. We are so like stuck, unless the guy was driver was telling me, if you lie, you go forward. If you kind of be honest, truthful, you remain behind. At least that's how it looks on the external level, right? I mean, dharma is always uh, dharma always wins. But externally, it does appear like people who are good, they remain behind. People who can be bad and ruthless and politics and deceit, they appear to be moving forward, right? And then everybody starts to resort to such activities to try to make their own life like that. And then, like you're asking, why we don't see? Because it's not overnight thing that from one day being good people, we become bad people. It's a slow transition. We start thinking, oh, but that devotee did that too. Why can't I do? Oh, but this devotee did this, and they survived and nobody said anything, and I can also do it. So there is slow digression. It's not like a sudden, it's slow. So we don't even know that we're being slowly poisoned by material life and material miseries. And here it says he gives pain to others to secure his own sense gratification. And yesterday I sat there thinking, I don't want to become like them. I don't want to fight for money, or I don't want to be nasty or like rude and selfish. And I was just thinking, I was praying to Krishna, I want to protect myself. I don't want to do things illegally, because they wanted me to do something illegally. They wanted to give me black money and something. And I didn't want to accept it. And I wanted to stick to the rule, following government rules, etc. But then they were like harassing and they were like really pushing. And then I was just thinking, I don't want to go down to their level, threatening or something. And I had to really become conscious that to not do this. And it gives pain to others in order to secure his own sense gratification. I didn't want to be the person who thinks, oh, I don't care if they suffer. There was like 6 different people who came from the Bangladesh, another country next to ours. There are poor people who came to buy little pieces of that land. And they were all there, and the agent made some mistakes, and all day we were waiting. And at the end of the day, these people are coming and begging me, folding their hands in the office and saying, Mataji, please, please sign this, please get us through this, please. And I didn't believe when the agent came and folded his palms, but the other devotees, they were very concerned. And then one of the devotees was saying that we won't sleep at night today, because this registration did not go through. It's all our money, things like that. And I was just like, I don't want to do this in consciousness of wanting to give pain to others. See, some people, they don't care. They don't care about giving pain to others. But there are situations in our life where we need to be firm, where we need to take a stand, where we need to protect ourselves. That can appear like we're giving pain to others. But if we become conscious, aware, and ask Krishna, please, my intention is not to give pain to others. My intention is to protect myself. So Krishna can actually see that intention. But in this world, what I'm saying is, we read yesterday, it's very difficult to not commit any violence, any sin. I did feel bad that yesterday the registration did not go through, and they were all sitting there waiting, and I had to just say, I'm sorry, I understand your situation, but I don't want to risk my situation. I don't want to risk my reputation with the government and everything. Sorry, I'm not going to do legally. Send me to the bank account, then we'll come back tomorrow. And it did give them pain, but my intention was not to make them suffer for my sense gratification like that. But there are times that maybe I do that. Like sometimes I don't care if other people get inconvenienced, but I want what I want. Right? So these things are not, it's kind of sometimes unavoidable, but we can be a little bit aware of it. So when you're asking, why do we not remember it? Because we don't want to, or circumstances are so pressing, or in situations when we need money, we're thinking of, oh, my child needs money for the education, and everything else gets blurred out. We only think about that. Or anything else, something gets blurred by the mind, and we only see what we want to see. And it's the way the human programming is done. Survival of the fittest, survival and self-preservation. We want to preserve ourselves, and whatever it takes sometime, right? They say beg, borrow, steal. It's a Prabhupada said that when they cannot they try, right? They try this way, that way, and then they become adharmic, and they try to repeatedly find another way to earn money, and then again their attempts are baffled, and they cannot. They. I saw this yesterday. It's like really begging, okay, please, please, like that. So, and then they always feel like a failure. And different people have different problems. Some rich people have other kinds of problems. They don't get married. I have clients that they have everything. They have money, they have success, they have fan following, everything. But they don't have relationships, they don't have family, things like that. So everybody has to go through some sort of karmic consequences like that. Anyway, this thing is like it's very true. Like people get neglected as old people, right? Who likes to take care of all people? Everybody feels like a burden. But then when that same person was earning and everything, they are more respected. Like it says here, like an old, worn out oxen, right? And people are treated like that, and it's the truth of the situation. If you see among brothers, sisters, etc., people fight over, you take care of mother, you take care of mother, you take care of father, you take care of parents. I am busy, I have this, I have that. I've seen such situations too. Like that. That's Kali Yuga, right? They don't work on dharma, just work on comfort. They just work on temporary feelings of happiness and enjoyment. They say, no, if my parents live with me, my enjoyment will be disrupted. They don't think it's my dharma to take care of my parents. It's not the value system anymore. Some years ago it was, not anymore. So it's a gradual thing that happens because of looking at others, because of our own situations, because of samskaras, desires, and we may not be progressing spiritually, and that makes us materially hankering for material things as well. There's a certain age also. Some age group, people become more freaked out. Oh my God, I'm a failure. I haven't made money. I haven't done that. I haven't done this. And then suddenly they have this spree of inspiration, and then they start doing everything that they have not done. And then again, it's another hellish cycle like that. Does it answer your question?
Yes, Mataji.
If anybody else has an answer for Lakshmita's question, why do we not remember that material life is so miserable, and we still keep going after that little carrot in front of us dangling, right? We're just going and going and going, and we're never getting that carrot, because actual carrot is Krishna consciousness, nothing material. Welcome, Taruni Radha. Hare Krishna.
Maybe it
I
is
think
like we are conditioned, like it is said in the story of Narad Muni, that he becomes.
Absolutely. Yeah, the
Yeah.
conditioning, so many different kinds of conditionings, right?
Yeah.
Condition of the mind, condition of the situation, condition of the family, condition of our association, so many kinds of conditions. But it's a good question.
lifetime.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's like lifetime of the samskara of being the enjoyer, right? It just doesn't go. I want to enjoy. There's so much in our heart. I mean, heart, conditioned soul's heart, that it's very hard to, even though there is some, some dissatisfaction or there's some difficulty, the tendency is to always try to circumvent that particular situation so that it'll be good. And if it's hot, you want to put on the AC. If AC is too cold, again you try to do something. Always like you're trying to adjust so that you feel comfortable. Trying to enjoy, like what do you say, derive happiness through sense pleasure. That is something conditioned souls. We have it so much in our heart. It's just part of it. That's the thing. And we have so much of complacency, even though we we were discussing on Sunday, when we have the problem, it's actually pushing us to reform and go towards our spiritual self, to become like that, closer to our spiritual identity, right? We're the servants of the Lord. But instead of that, right, when some situation happens, we suddenly become alert, and then we're like, oh my God, this is not the place for me. And after some time, it's like really strong and everything is going nicely. And again, complacency sets in. And then again, we need a, kick from Krishna or Maya, one of them. Then again, we'll wake up and say, oh no, this is not. So it just goes on and point, keep getting kicked so much. I'm like, no matter what, This is not the place for me. Yeah.
True. No, that's called, we call it Mashana Vairagya, right? Comes sometime. All these things are useless. The next moment we are back. And then I'm thinking of Prabhupada saying about the she donkey. The male donkey approaches the female donkey and gets kicked again and again, but it still goes, right? Like that. Material pleasures are somewhat like that. We suffer so much consequence. Like when we eat some big feast or something, and then our stomach get upset, right? Then the next time will we avoid the feast? No. Or we go to some vacation, things are not very pleasant or something, but we still want to go again or something. So happiness is very relative. And there is this bhajan, no? ಬೇಡುವರೋ ಸುಖವ ರಂಗಯ್ಯ ನಿನ್ನ ಬೇಡುವರೋ ಸುಖವ ಬೇಡುವರೋ ಸುಖ ಬೇಡರೋ ಕಷ್ಟವ ಮಾಡಲರಿಯರಿದ ಕುಪ್ಪಾಯವ ಬೇಡುವರೋ ಸುಖವ. And then it says, people go to the Lord and ask for happiness. They don't ask for misery. But then look at their actions. ಸಾಲು ಸಾಲೆಮ್ಮೆಯ ಸೋಲದೆ ತೊಳೆವರೋ ಸಾಲಿಗ್ರಾಮಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರೆರೆಯರೋ ಜನ ಬೇಡುವರೋ ಸುಖವ. So they will keep, in today's day, it's like they keep dogs and they wash their cars and they keep their house very nice, clean and everything, but they don't want to pour a few drops of water on their deity or their saligram shila. So that's the capacity, right? Like we are like not doing things that's going to make us happy, but then we go to the Lord and say, please make me happy. And then ಬೀಗರೂಟಕ್ಕೆ ಅನೇಕ ಭೋಗವು ಜೋಳವು ಹೋಗರ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರೆಲೆಯೋಳು ಘಮ್ಮನೆ ತುಪ್ಪವು ತಮ್ಮನೆಯವರಿಗೆ ಘಮ್ಮಟು ದೇವ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಿಗೆ. So we may, when somebody comes home and we want to show off we are very wealthy, then we give fresh ghee and all best ingredients because we want to show off that we are very well off. But then when some brahmana comes to door to beg, or even to the deities, we are not thinking of offering the best items. We're just thinking, it's not like my reputation is in the line, here, let me give the cheap things like that. But then still we are going and asking the Lord for happiness. So the point is, we are ourselves, we are performing actions which are going to cause our misery, but then we are expecting happiness. It's like Einstein said, doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. We do material actions which prioritizes our, like Tarani Radha was expressing about our comfort, right? We want to go after comfort. What makes me comfortable? What gives me some pleasure, sensual pleasure? That's what is the human's limitedness to find happiness. Then that pleasure only leads to pain, because passion, in the mode of passion, we start out feeling good and then it ends up feeling miserable. That's another reason that we keep forgetting, because we're attached to the taste of sensual pleasure. And it's Srimad Bhagavatam describes it as like, camels. The camels, they sometimes chew thorns, and when they chew thorns, they're chewing it, and those thorns are obviously pricking their own mouth, and it's bleeding, and these camels are thinking, so delicious, and they're
Enjoying their own blood.
Yeah, it's like they're chewing the thorns and enjoying their own blood. That's called exactly hellish enjoyment. So like that, human beings, sometimes we are trying to take pleasure and we are taking away our dharma, we are taking away our good karma, we are producing bad karma, and we are actually putting ourselves into difficulty. That's why traditionally our parents, grandparents told us, stick to dharma, do not deviate from dharma, right? We were told again and again and again. Whole Mahabharata is about sticking to your dharma, even if it's difficult in the beginning. That's why the Pandavas, we still glorify them after 5,000 years, because they didn't go for sensual pleasure. They were not like the camels who were chewing on the thorns. They didn't do that. They were ready to take up austerities for sake of dharma. In our lives, nobody is asking us to go away 13 years in exile, nobody is asking us. Sometimes it's very small things, but practice. We have to practice everyday life to perform that dharma. But don't forget that you also have your dharma towards your own body and your own sadhana. Don't use that against yourself.
So beautifully explained, Ashley. Thank you so much.
Okay, can we just complete this paragraph till here? Somebody likes to read this part? Whoever didn't read, Raseshwari or Taruni or Rasastali Mataji. We have two Ras, Raseshwari and Rajeshwari. Rasa. Rasa and Rajeshwari.
Lamenting friends and relatives, they cry out, "Oh, my husband, my father, my friend." In that pitiable condition, the dying man wants to speak to them, but influenced by time, he cannot express himself. In this way, a man who neglected all religious principles in maintaining his family dies a painful and pathetic death, bewildered and grieving to see his relatives crying. At that moment of death, the attached householder is confronted by the Yamdutas, the terrible messengers of Yamraj, Lord of Death. Seeing them with their eyes full of wrath, he passes stool and urine in great fear. Because of his illicit pursuit of sense gratification, the Yamdutas seize him just as the police arrest a criminal. Binding him about the neck with a stout rope, they wrench him from his gross body and thrust him into a subtle covering.
Okay, we'll pause there for today and then we'll continue tomorrow. Any other last comments or questions before we go into our before you go to sleep or before we continue our day? Let's not end with, oh my God, material life is miserable. That's for the non-devotees, right? For devotees, we are always thinking of how to please Krishna. For devotees, these things are actually a good thing. Miseries of this material world remind us that this is not our home. It's a good thing. The relationships that disappoint us in this world is actually an impetus for us to develop deeper relationship with Krishna. Because if my husband was a perfect companion with no complaints whatsoever, how will I develop my attachment to Krishna? I'll be only, thinking about my family. But a little bit of difficulties in family actually encourages us to go towards the ultimate purpose of life. So for the devotee, the consequences, like somebody neglects us, somebody hurts us, somebody ignores us, and all that, it's actually a good thing. It makes us humble. So it's about perspective. When the body starts deteriorating and we feel no more energy and strength to do nonsense we could do when we were young, it's a good thing, because then we sit down, pick up bead bags finally, and pick the Bhagavatam finally, and sit down to read. And then we're not running all around the universe trying to find some sense pleasure. So aging is a good thing. Graying of hair, it's a good thing. We're not anymore thinking, oh, how do I attract the attention of the opposite sex? Or how can I make my neighbor jealous by looking better in the sari than her sari? Or, those things fade away as we age. So aging has its own benefits for some people. Some people, even then, they don't give up. But anyway.
Then artificial pleasures don't attract us anymore.
Right. Also, experiencing some pleasures of family life, some pleasures of this and that. It's like, okay, I'm done with it. I've experienced it. Let me move on to something more permanent and more meaningful. So some enjoyments will frustrate us. Some enjoyments satisfy us. Especially if we are devotees, we become satisfied at one point and say, okay, I think I've had enough ice cream, let me go and wash the pots. But for materialists, it's like never ending. They want just more and more and more enjoyment. Because they don't have Krishna, no? In our case, we're thinking, Rishikesha, Seveya. We're thinking of serving the senses of Krishna. And then we are also feeling pleased. But the materialists, they're trying to fulfill their own sense pleasures. That's like a yagya to the fire, meaning, sorry, oil to the fire. You keep pouring oil, we keep putting wood in the fire, it keeps eating it up. But when we actually please the Lord, then the real fulfillment comes. By the way, talking about serving the Lord, I don't know what you're all planning for Janmashtami. What special service you're planning?
We have a seva in the Abhishek Hall in Radha Pathasati.
Jai. All right, so let's see each other tomorrow. Continue the, it's good remembrance to read all these sufferings so that we are aware. Next time we try to enjoy. It's not that we should not be happy and be grateful and enjoy, just to remind ourselves that this is not the permanent thing. We shouldn't run after sense pleasure because it's fleeting. It's a good reminder. So let's continue the reminder tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. The sufferings of this material world ki jai.